Alright guys, we wanted to make a video. We got a special request from Dan, how would you pronounce that last name? Dangalit?
Something like that. Yeah.
Probably butchered that, but Dan posted a question. He said, I got a special request for Joe and Scott. Can you guys do a video on climbing rope? This season I one-stick climbed for the first time and I really liked it. After watching your YouTube videos, got turned on to SRT climbing with presets and bought the necessary equipment to do it next season. I have some questions about climbing rope care, for instance. How do you properly inspect your rope? How do you know when to replace it? How often do you replace it? How do you clean it and how often? What attributes make for a good SRT and DRT climbing rope? He also said, I know ascenders are harder on rope than a Blake's hitch. Do SRT and DRT require different ropes? And he says, as I mentioned, I've got questions and I imagine others do as well. So, yeah, we get a lot of questions about rope. So this is a really good topic to touch on, and we've touched on a lot of this stuff in different videos, but we're going to try and pull it all together here. Yeah. So for starters, one thing I'd like to say is probably one of the most common questions we do get is, if you're DRT climbing, won't the rope get beat up, and how long does the rope last? We get that question all the time. So we're climbing primarily on Predator, Samson Predator climbing line, and that's like really, it's a really good, strong climbing rope. But
yeah, it's 6,000 pound rating. It's 11.4 millimeter, and it's for climbing. It's a great rope. It's it's a very pliable rope. It's got excellent knot tying characteristics, and in a DRT application, because you're primarily tying your hitch opposed to using a mechanical hitch. So you want a rope that's very good in the hand, very pliable, has good knot holding characteristics, and that's why we went with Predator. Also, the fact that it was camo just made it a bonus. It's probably, I think there's another one out there. It's got a lower rating, overall rating, strength rating. But this one seemed to fit everything that we were looking at. I checked all the boxes that we were looking at as far as a camo-clad rope. Like I said, there are other ropes out there. You don't have to necessarily choose a camo rope. I don't really think it makes that much of a difference. Whether it's green, orange, yellow, or I don't really believe that it does make that much of a difference. And there are a ton of really good DRT ropes. The one thing I will say about Predator is you just can't. You just got to take some care with it as far as descending down out of the tree. It's not something where you really want to come down at a fast rate of speed. I know a lot of a lot of guys, including myself. That's like the fun part of the day. Where you kind of
Rambo out,
parachute out of the tree as fast as you can on a rope. It's fun, but with this rope, being a double braid and everything, and it's got a very soft, pliable outer shell on it. When that hitch is coming down, the rope's traveling through that hitch at a fast rate of speed. You're going to melt these fibers, and you're going to damage the rope. So then what you're doing is you're just taking the longevity out of the rope. Something that may last you, easily 2, 3, 4 seasons. You're gonna. What's that?
He's just making some noise there.
Yeah. You might. My dog loves chewing on these bones. Not right now. You're making too much noise. You're going to shorten the lifespan of it. Once you glaze this rope over, not only that, but you're also lessening its knot holding characteristic.
Yeah,
when you get an area that's glazed, you really don't have much for that. The coils in that knot and that Blake's hitch that are going to grab onto this rope. That's how it's called a friction hitch. It works off of friction. The friction is what holds you there when that knot is properly tied and dressed. So yeah, that's one downfall to this Predator line. But like I said, as long as you're taking care and you're coming down at at a reasonable rate of speed, you know, you're not going to hurt it. You know, and like I said, this is a newer one. I still have my old one, which is now, oh my God, what are we going on now?
Probably 5
4?
years. 4 or
No,
5.
not 5, probably 4. I'd say 4. This will be its 4th season I'd be using it, and I
yeah,
still,
yeah.
you know, I have no problem with it. I don't believe it's
We got it in
compromised.
2018.
Yeah, I don't believe it's compromised in any way. You know, and I, you know, coming from a climbing background in the tree industry and the tree care industry, I mean, we would really abuse ropes. Yeah, I mean, because I'm doing numerous climbs per day, where now I'm probably on this predator line, you know, going in once, twice. You know, I don't, probably not even more than 2 times a day on this rope. So when you and you're doing what, out of a month-long hunt, maybe you're doing, you know, maybe you're hunting for a month, maybe you're only hunting for 2 weeks a season. You know, some guys may hunt 3 months out of the season, and still you're not putting the wear that an arborist would put on a rope like this. So
Yeah, so you could, I would say, I mean, for a guy that's using their rope purely for scout climbing and hunting,
Right.
I mean, I think with my rope, I'm going to get 5 to 10 years. I'll probably replace my rope after 5 years, just
Yeah,
out of abundance, of, you know.
Right.
But I think,
Right.
you know, honestly, you could probably go a lot longer because you're just not.
yeah.
I
I
would
think
say
10,
you as an
10
arborist,
would be kind of pushing your luck, you know. And listen, not to say that it wouldn't last, but you know, like I said, you know, this is your lifeline. So you know, I mean, a length of this, it's, you know, we climb with 75 feet. We carry with us 75 feet of this rope is, what is it, 100 and maybe $100, right? Somewhere around there.
yeah.
So
something like that.
you know, I mean, that's.
I think
that's,
right. Yeah, it's about. I think it's about it's somewhere around $1.20 a foot. I think.
Yeah. All right. So you know, that's not a lot of money. You know,
For your
when
life.
you're talking about your life. So, so yeah, I would say definitely. I mean, 4 or 5 years you're going to get out of that rope. And then just as far as inspecting these ropes go, as long as there's really nothing in that tree. Some of you guys may get into some farm country where there could be barbed wire. You know, and maybe you don't even see it. It's just, it could be 20 years old, and there's just a little spikes of the barb that are still sticking out of that tree. And of course, that would be there's going to be no more than 4 or 5 feet off the ground. But still, if it catches your rope, especially while you're coming down on a DRT setup, don't forget, you're coming down one leg of the rope, the other ropes, you know, goes over the limb, is coming up. So, you know, that snags on something like that, a piece of barbed wire or something, you're gonna damage the rope, probably to the point where you should get rid of it, because you're gonna pull so many of the fibers out that you're probably more than likely gonna damage the rope. So, you know, I would be a little more cautious. All you guys who do hunt farmlands and stuff like that, that's something to pay attention to. The crotch of a tree really isn't gonna. You know, I mean, over time it does wear the rope down, but you're talking years of abuse on that.
I would say the friction hitch probably does more wear than the.
Yeah, the
limb,
hitch
right?
does, right, exactly, and that's, like I said, getting back to, you know, your rate of descending out of the tree. It's, you know, just keep it at a real slow pace on your way down. That's how you're going to preserve this rope.
Let's get into it this way. When you're to properly inspect your rope, before, what are you doing? Are you what I like to do is I inspect my rope before I go up, but really I'm inspecting it after I come down.
Yeah.
So you should always inspect it the first time before you go up.
Yeah, because
but when I
exactly.
come back and put it away,
Yep.
I inspect it so I know
Right.
it's good before I go in.
Before
the next
you
time.
get into your next hunt, and that's definitely, that's a very good. You should definitely, if you can use that as a, you know, your thought process going into this, because exactly who's gonna look at their rope at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, you
Right.
know, when it's dark. So right, if you on the way coming down, you know, as you're coiling your rope up, you know, you're just doing a fast visual inspection.
And you're just looking for any imperfections in the outer core.
Right.
You're looking. How about flat spots?
Flat spots, yeah, you know, that's something where over time you could get that. I mean, these ropes generally do stay round under a load, and that's what makes them a very good rope. And that's the reason too why I always stress that you should use, you know, you should use an approved climbing line. You know, you might have a friend who says, oh, you know, I got 500 feet of rope that, you know, a fireman down the street had, and he gave it to me and said, all right, but you don't know where that rope came from. You don't know what it was designed to be used for. I had one guy tell me, I'm just going to go to Home Depot and just, I was, Jesus,
Yeah,
no, don't do that. You know, because they're hollow core ropes, most of them, or they're a cotton core rope. They flatten out. I mean, that's just a, you know, that's an accident waiting to happen. You know, definitely, you know, spend the money on a good rope. You know, buy something that's, you know, either it's a rock climbing rope or a tree climbing rope. It just has to be a, you know, a certifiable rope that's designed, you know, to be used for hoisting a live body weight up a tree.
Yeah. So I would say, so far what we've talked about here is we want to inspect our rope before we go up each climb, which could be after the last climb, and then we're going to be looking for any imperfections in the rope that, you know, when in doubt, change it out.
Yeah.
You know, you as an arborist, when you're climbing, I would imagine you probably get some snags and stuff, and you don't.
You do.
You're not going to go crazy over every little thing.
No, you're not.
But,
you're not. You can definitely get a few pulls, fiber pulls from a piece of bark.
But
if you're climbing a hickory,
if you start seeing that inner core, that's probably
if you start seeing that inner core, then you definitely got to get rid of that rope.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, if even if it's a nick that's that bad in the rope, you know, don't wait till you see the inner core.
Yeah.
Don't say, oh, I haven't seen the inner core yet, so I can just keep climbing on
Right.
it, you know. And if it's down towards the tail end, either end, if it's either on your carabiner end or on the tail end of your rope,
Cut it off.
I mean, even if it's 10 feet, okay, so now you got 65 feet, all right? It's still a usable rope,
Right.
you know, so it's not like you have to get rid of it. If it's somewhere in the middle, well, you know, then you got two short ropes, you know, if you're going to climb apple trees or something like that, and, you know, you'd be all right with it. But yeah, you know, I mean, definitely it's, you know, you take this stuff with a grain of salt, you know, you kind of, if it looks that bad, and it's really raising concern to you, then, you know, you should probably do the right thing. And like I said, if you can't cut a piece off and still make it a working rope, then probably get rid of it.
All right, so the question: how often do we replace our ropes? Like I said, you know, my rope I bought it in 2018, and it's literally, honestly, I don't see a difference in my rope from the time I bought it. But I think it is probably a good practice, you know, if you say every 5 years you replace your rope just to out of an abundance of caution.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's probably a good practice.
Right.
But
and it also comes down to where you store your ropes too. I mean, I've worked with guys in the industry, you know, come in at the end of the day and throw their ropes on the garage floor, and the garage floor is full of gas and oil, you know, guys mixing gasoline up and stuff like that for chainsaws. And, you know, that's, you know, not saying that, you know, as hunters we do things like that, but still, you know, you could come in, throw your ropes in your garage or something, and maybe, you know, you don't even remember, maybe a few months ago you were working with a solvent in that garage, you know, something that's really toxic, you know, or corrosive to a rope, and you know, that could damage the life of your rope, and you wouldn't even know it. Okay, you know, so, you know, stuff like that, you know, where you guys store your ropes, that's a big thing too. You know, I keep all my ropes in a scent-free tote. You know, I have a number of different ropes I use, different lengths and stuff like that, and they're all stored together in a scent-free tote.
he had a question here about maintaining the rope, and that's, you know, storage is one of the things that you're that's important. You don't want to store it out in the sunlight. You don't want to store it out in the weather.
Right.
Obviously,
right. Yeah. You don't want to leave it hanging in the tree in your front. Maybe the tree in your front yard or your backyard is where you do all your practicing, and you just leave it there because I'm going to come out and I'm going to climb 3 times a week.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to do that.
If you left it out there a couple of days,
yeah, it
probably
doesn't
no big
matter.
deal,
Even if you did it a few times, like if you left it out for a day and said I'm going to climb tomorrow, and then you did it again on Friday, and then you did it again on Wednesday. All right. Yeah. But if you leave it out there for a few months, it's not a good idea, because the UV rays will, over time, will depreciate the integrity of that rope, and you know, so that's not something that you really want to be doing.
As far as how to clean the rope, we made a video about that, and I think there's multiple ways you can go about this. Mm-hmm. One way we talked about was just taking a 5-gallon bucket of water, take, you know, some of your favorite hunter's detergent. Put a little bit of that in there. Put it in there with a stick. Kind of
Yep.
mix it up. Maybe rinse it out,
Yep.
and then hang it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Let it
Air dry it, definitely. You throw it out on the lawn, let the sun beat on it. Air dry it any way you can. Just make sure. Do not put the rope. Don't put it away wet. And not that I'm really worried that from a safety aspect, but from, you don't want mildew building up on it or anything like that, because then it's going to reek, man.
Right.
I mean, a wet rope over time, man, because we climb in the rain all the time in the tree care industry. And let me tell you something, after about 2-3 weeks, man, that rope stinks like a friggin' locker room. You know?
Yeah. Another thing you can do is, this is what I've been doing, is I've got an Ozonics unit, and I'll take, my hunting gear, even, my saddle, my rope and everything. Sometimes I'll just stick it in my vehicle, and I have that Ozonics, what is it, the Ozonics
the
300.
Go or whatever.
Yeah, it's got, I just put it
The
in
one you
dry
plug
water.
in?
No.
Oh,
Well, you can
you're
use
talking
that
about
too.
the unit,
I have
yeah.
the regular
Yeah,
unit, but
yeah.
I just put it in there, any
Yeah.
type of an ozone generator.
Right.
Give it a little shot of it. I wouldn't overdo it with any ozone or anything,
no.
but just enough to, to
Yeah,
crush and
sparingly,
scent that.
real sparingly with your ropes. I mean, I haven't researched it that much because we do know that ozone
Depletes rubber.
it breaks down rubbers, maybe plastics or something like that, and there really isn't that in a rope.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put it in an ozone
In a crusher bag
container,
or
in a
something.
crusher bag or anything like
Really
that.
hammer it, yeah.
Well, and then hammer it for like half an hour in there or something like that.
Just in
I don't
case.
know what the outcome of that could be. That might be dangerous. I really don't know, but it's just not something that I would do myself. Like you want to throw it in there for 5 minutes.
Sparingly, just to hit it and crush out a little bit of scent.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea. One of the other questions he had here, he says, what attributes make for a good SRT or DRT climbing rope? Now, I'm going to speak to SRT, and then I'll let Scott talk about the DRT. But for me, and probably with both ropes, we got to make a distinction too, because there's 3 primary forms of climbing guys are using ropes for today for saddle hunting. It's probably DRT climbing, SRT climbing, and single stick climbing. There's also guys using the JRB method, which is pretty much the same thing as SRT, really. But for that kind of climbing, you want kind of a static rope. The more static the rope is, the less. Yeah, think of a static rope is going to be. It's not going to stretch as much, so it's less work to climb because the rope's not giving each time you advance your way up the rope. Now, I think there would be a difference between a rope that you're going to use for DRT and SRT being more static versus a rope that you would use for single stick climbing. Because with single stick climbing, you're not using the rope to climb on, you're securing yourself with the rope and you're rappelling on it.
Right.
And you're putting slack in your system. And because you're standing up on a stick and taking pressure off and making movements, there's a lot of opportunity there for you to have a failure with your stick, kick out, or something like that. I've heard it happen many times.
Yes.
And then you fall in to that rope, and in my opinion, tell me if you think I'm wrong, I think a kind of more dynamic rope might make a little bit more sense there.
Will definitely make a lot more sense. Think of rock climbers. Rock climbers use dynamic ropes. They don't use static ropes, just for the fact that you take a fall, the jarring effect on your body. Hopefully, as somebody single stick climbing, maybe you only fall a foot or two. Maybe a little more, but you have a significant fall on a static rope. Man, when you come to the end of that rope, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
That's going to put some trauma on your body. It's going to put trauma on your spine, on your neck.
Yeah. Think of bungee jumping, right?
Right,
you want to jump into something that kind of stretches and gives.
Right. You want that.
You wouldn't bungee jump with a cable.
No.
Right? And that's kind of what
Yeah, I think you disembowel yourself.
Yeah. So that's an important factor there. But between SRT and DRT, there's a couple different factors. With SRT, you're not concerned as much with how it feels in your hand as you would be with DRT. It's kind of nice to have a little thicker rope. So with SRT, you're using mechanicals.
Right.
And there's 2 factors. You're not worried about how much it feels, how it feels in your hand so much, but you're more concerned with the rope getting any type of damage or affected by the mechanical ascenders and that sort of thing. I highly recommend. I've been using Tuffelberger Platinum, and you can go on YouTube and look at some of the videos put out by Tuffelberger on Tuffelberger Platinum, and it's created with a the outer core is interwoven with the inner core. It's really good rope. It's about 10.5 millimeters, so it's not really thick, but it's also not really thin.
Yeah, it's definitely a happy medium.
Yeah, and it's a nice color for
and
hunters too.
Joe and I looked long and hard when we chose this rope, and it was, I mean, talk about perfect timing. You know, we were looking for a real good SRT rope for this setup, and it's just when this Platinum had come on the scene, and the fact that the inner and outer, the inner core and the outer jacket are woven together, so they're one unit. This rope will never milk out, and that's always been a problem with other ropes.
And it won't flatten either.
And it won't flatten, right? It's stays round under a load. Yeah, now I think this is one of the most superior SRT ropes out there, without a doubt. You know?
Now, one of the things that you'll find, though, if you were to contrast something like a Predator rope and the Tuffelberger Platinum is, Platinum doesn't have the knot characteristics that something like this is a lot more limp and flexible.
Yeah.
So
well, you can see just by doing that and by doing this. I mean,
it just collapses much easier.
Just collapsing it more. You know, this stuff is, you know, it bends. It makes a real a much wider radius. You know, to where one that's made for DRT. Like I said, it's just very pliable. Where this is kind of stiff.
Yeah, you can tie good, don't get me wrong, you could tie good knots with it, but you wouldn't be able to tie a Blake's hitch and climb with this rope like you would with this one.
Right, exactly. But like the tie, like an alpine butterfly, where you use to secure yourself.
That's
you know, because you're leaving enough tail end as well.
Alpine butterfly, clove hitch,
is a midline knot.
All of that works fine, but just for, if you were trying to use, you know, I've had guys ask me, you know, if I wanted to try to DRT climb with my SRT rope, you would have to, it can be done, but you would want to add a different type of friction hitch or like a split tail or something like that.
And we tell guys, look, if you're in a pinch and you say, oh, I just got an SRT climb and I want to see if I like it or not, can I use my Predator rope? Yeah, you can. But like I said, if you take both of these ropes and you said, all right, I'm going to climb every day for a month on this rope and every day for a month on this rope, okay? At the end of the month, this rope, the Predator rope, is going to be pretty beat up. You're going to see a lot of fraying along the outer jacket on there, where on this Platinum rope you're not, because the outer jacket is designed for the abuse of mechanical hitches, where Predator really isn't, you know?
But
it can work in a pinch.
Well, you know something, though? I got to say, you know, the Tuffelberger Platinum is superior to the Predator with ascenders. But that, don't get me wrong, I've been using a hand ascender for DRT climbing on my Predator rope, and I got no issues with it whatsoever. I mean, it is good with ascenders and everything, but I think something like this is just better. Right. You know, with the difference. And
then I think you also got to be a little leery of what ascender you're actually using.
Yeah.
You know, if you're using, you know, an ascender, I mean, they all have a camming.
Some kind of teeth.
So, yeah, but some of them, well, so a lot of them have a smooth cam too. Because,
well, like,
you know, the cam is just made so, you know, when it grabs the rope, and that rope's in that groove, and it's pressing it against the outer wall of the ascender.
Right.
And that's where it's, you know, like I think a ropeman has. Doesn't they have teeth?
It does have teeth. There's two different types of rope, and one's got more aggressive.
And a ropeman, you're not really. You know, I see guys use it on their tether, and you know, to each their own. You know.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys do use it, and they trust it. And then, you know, if you feel comfortable with using it, fine. You know, it's not something that we do. But the even if you had a Predator line, this Predator rope as your tether, that ropeman ascender over time. Yeah, you'll see it. The teeth will really chew this jacket up, where they wouldn't do it as much on this. You know?
Yeah, but I got to say, I probably climb more than most guys out there, because I'm climbing all the time. I'm actually, I actually enjoy
you do it as fitness. It's a way to keep yourself in shape.
I've been trying to do it for, you know, just to kind of. I find I get a little bit of fitness benefit out of it as well. So, and you know, I've got 2 ropes sitting here that are both about 4 years each, and they're good to go. You know what I mean? And I'm using ascenders on them and stuff. So, yeah, the ascenders, your mechanicals are going to probably beat them up more so than not. But I got to tell you, if you're using a good rope like these, it's really not an issue. It's it's really not an issue. Mine
served,
hold up
and like
just
I said, 4 years now, and they have served us well. You know, I can do nothing but rave about these two ropes. I hear a lot of guys going with the lighter Sterling ropes and stuff like that down to 8 millimeter and stuff like that. It's not something I'm not opposed to it, but it's just something I don't use. So I really can't speak to it, because I don't have the experience with it. Do I trust it? Yeah, definitely. Sterling is a great company and they make a great rope, but I can't. Like I said, I just personally, I can't say much about it because and I'm sure maybe one day that time will come where I will really get into it and just to see what it's all about. And then I'll do a video on it. But right now, I just don't have the experience on it, so I can't really speak to it.
This is the thing about you. You got 35 years experience arborist climbing, and this is more a thinner rope than what you're using. This is already thin.
Yeah. When Predator came out, like I said, we started using this in a hunting application for DRT, and this was like, oh my God, 7/16 diameter. I never climbed on that, Yeah. Smallest we climb on is half-inch,
Yeah.
And and I even like, believe it or not, I like a 12/5 or 13 mil rope, for DRT, because until you climb on this doing DRT and then you go over to a 12. Listen, if you're not, one of those guys that's like, oh, I got to shave ounces. To me, it don't matter. If I have a rope and it's, this rope at 100 feet, I believe is 6.5 pounds, and I'm using 75 feet of it. So it's probably, and I think that's what it is. I think it's 6.5 pounds per 100 foot. I believe that's what it is. So, right here, this is probably 4.8 pounds because it's 75 feet. And then, a 12 or 13 mil is going to be probably in the 7 to 8 pound range at that same, probably more like 7 pounds at 75 feet. That doesn't really matter that much to me. But the comfort factor in your hand is night and day, man. Like I said, this don't bother me. If you were to do a bunch of climbs per day, you're going to start feeling it biting into your hand. And but
yeah, you're right. 6.7 pounds
per 100.
Per 100 feet.
Right. So I said this is probably. I think we did weigh this out.
That's why, because it's 75 feet.
75 feet, so it's like 4.8. I think we did weigh it at one time.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was like somewhere around 5 pounds.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, if you ever want to experiment, same thing, and we'll do it, and I'll even let you know in this video as well too. I'll let you know. I'll let you know what ropes we're using for that as well, because it's something else, man. When you climb on it, right away you'll notice in the hand, like, wow, I don't have any bite in my hand, while I'm pulling up the tree. So
yeah. Another question he had was, do SRT and DRT require different ropes? Yes and no. You want with your DRT and SRT ropes, you want them to be more static, and with an SRT rope you want something that's going to be a little bit better when it comes to mechanicals. We've been using the Tuffelberger Platinum. It's a real static rope, 10.5 millimeter, but it's also got a really tough rope where it's got an outer core that's interwoven with the inner core, so that it's really good with mechanicals and it can take the abuse of them. Our Samson Predator can be used with mechanicals and everything, but it's a little bit more of a softer rope, and it has the knot characteristics to tie a Blake's hitch that your Tuffelberger Platinum doesn't have. So you can utilize these ropes that you would use for SRT and that are really good with mechanicals for a DRT application, but you'd want to use either a split tail or some type of a friction hitch on it. Maybe, I've been experimenting with a couple of different ways of doing it. I've even just climbed with like an 8 millimeter Prusik on my my Predator and or on my Tuffelberger Platinum, and it'll work just fine. So
Yeah, if you want to go the split tail route, 8 or 10 millimeter beeline split tail. It's a 5 foot long split tail. So what it is, it's got an eye in one end and nothing on the other. It's 5 feet long. So the eye would attach where your carabiner is, and then you tie the friction hitch. So you know it'll work well because of there's such a difference in diameter. This being 10.5, and that's why I would actually go with an 8 millimeter split tail on this, and it'll work. It'll grab on this platinum rope just as well as it would if you did it on a predator line.
And actually, there's probably a benefit. Well, there's two benefits. There's two benefits to using a split. Well, three benefits to using a split tail. And just again, for those of you that don't understand what a split tail is, all we're trying to do here is get away from using the end of your climbing rope to tie your Blake's hitch, and you're going to add a 5-foot piece that's going to go right to your carabiner, and then the split tail is a totally different set of rope. Different. It's going to be a different size too. So if this rope here is 11.4 millimeter, I might be using an 8 or a 9 millimeter beeline split tail, and that smaller diameter split tail, when it grabs onto your rope, it always bites better than if you're using the same size rope on a friction hitch to grab. So for those of you that struggle getting your Blake's hitch to hold, if you were using a smaller diameter rope, that's going to work better, and it'll probably help you overcome that. Also, you get the benefit of when you have a split tail, if you're climbing and there's a limb or something in your way and it's in between your rope as you're climbing, and it starts adding friction to your climb and becomes a hindrance to the climb, you can get up to that spot, you can make yourself safe with your tether, and you can unclip and get around that limb and reclip into your carabiner without having to retie the knot. You could also leave it on the rope when you come down, and you won't have to end up tying any knots at the tree. So those are some of the benefits of using a split tail.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's most of the questions that Dan had. I just wanted to touch on that again. We were speaking about it before. A lot of guys who are getting into single stick climbing, that difference in the rope, if you're just going to be single stick climbing, it's probably a good idea to look into a rope that is a little bit more dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Right, in case of you get a stick that kicks out or something like that and results in you slipping and dropping a foot or two or more, you definitely want a rope that's more friendlier on your body. And if it's a dynamic rope, it's going to give a little bit when you fall into it versus a static rope. A static rope is going to create more of a shock to your system when you drop into it.
Yeah, or the thing is to really just, if you're single stick climbing, you want to focus on trying to, there's just no way around it. You have to have a certain amount of slack just for you to be able to move that rope up.
And hopefully for any of you guys that are single stick climbing, hopefully you guys are using a lanyard.
Yeah.
When you're going up, and when you're transitioning, to make your next jump up the tree with your stick, I pray you guys are using a lanyard or, something that's going to limit just in case, God forbid, that stick kicks out or something happens, that you're not going to drop, 5-6 feet.
Yeah. And that's one thing you want to, the stick is never supposed to be providing you with safety.
Right.
It's just a way to climb.
It's just a way to climb. It's just like if you were using a climbing tree stand. If you were using a climbing tree stand and a cable snapped on the bottom platform or whatever, and that thing takes off, you have to have another form of safety there. You have to have some redundancy built into it. There should always be a fail-safe, And I say this to a lot of guys that just climb with tree stands. I mean, I don't know. I think we might have something else out there, but it's probably something we should revisit again as well. Just have a backup.
Yeah. One of the things that we learned this week is that Westburg Tree Equipment, who's that's who we use to get all of our gear. They have an overabundance now of predator climbing line. They had so much trouble first couple of years keeping it in stock that now they've built up their stock to the point that they have 17 miles of predator climbing line. So if you guys want to get in, if you're a saddle hunter, one of the things that we've always tried to stress is that you should probably try to learn as many different ways of climbing as you can, so you have more tools in your toolbox. But you'll find that these rope climbing methods, they really have their place, especially in bigger, larger trees.
Yeah, definitely.
And they bring a certain level of fun to the game of saddle hunting.
Fun and safety.
Fun and safety. Yep.
There's nothing. Listen, there's no other way of. The word I can't. It's not coming to my mind right now. But nothing speaks more than safety in this whole and any form of hunting. Where you're going off the ground. Okay, but if you can use a system, the zero slack system, where as you're going up, you're constantly on a tensioned rope. I mean, you can't get any safer than that. All right,
yeah.
You're eliminating all the possibilities of slipping, falling, anything.
Yep.
All right. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we preach this so much. It's just, and we find a lot of guys, and especially a lot of older guys, a lot of guys have been hunting for 30, 40 years. They find us on our channel, and they're like, man, you just added another 20 years to my hunting life. Like I was really, frowning on, I'm getting up there in age. I'm in my 70s now, my 60s, my 70s. And, I just don't feel comfortable anymore. And, worried about if I take a fall, it's the end of me. And they find this and they're like, oh my God, man, thanks. You guys just added, you gave me another 10, 20 years of my hunting life,
Yeah.
And like I said, for me as a climber all these years as well, it just makes so much sense, I mean, listen, I've been in the trees a long, long time, and I've never had a fall.
Yeah.
I've never had a fall that resulted in an injury of any sort, so.
Yeah, think about that. 35 years climbing every day safely.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, it's inherently dangerous. Listen, people fall off of their ladders in their homes like 75,000 times a year. There's hospitalizations with that stuff. So this, when done properly, and even with this, you get up in the air, it's inherently dangerous. Your climbing's inherently dangerous. I don't care what you're climbing, it's inherently dangerous because of gravity. But this really will, as far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely going to enhance your safety. And it's safe. It's and when you learn this stuff, and there is a little bit of a learning curve, but when you learn this stuff, you're going to find out that it's really super light, it's efficient, it's quiet, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We for us, hunting isn't just the hunting season, and while we're actually hunting, it's an all year thing. Half of the fun for me is the preparation, scouting. We go out there, we find our spots, we'll select trees, we'll throw the throw ball into the tree, do all the hard work outside of the season, and make it easy when we come back. And that's really become half the fun. It's something that you can do all year long, and I think a lot of guys see that aspect of it.
Yeah.
It really brings another dimension of fun.
Absolutely.
It brings a dimension of safety and fun that we never really had. When we were just using tree stands.
Right, and the possibilities are just endless. Like I said, it's funny. We get a lot of guys that comment. They're like, "Man, it's like now every time I go in the woods, I'm like,
they're looking at trees.
That tree will work. That'll work. That'll work." Where, they had maybe one tree in an area, and maybe it was 40 yards off of where all the action was coming through. It's just they were bound to that one tree because of what tools they had in their arsenal.
Yeah.
That's all this is. This is we never got into this saying this is the best way to do it, and everything else is inferior to it. No, it's just another tool to add to your arsenal. And having this tool is huge, man. It's just, it opens up so many other avenues, man. Where before, like I said, you're in an area, maybe you hunted all the time, or even a new area. Wow, I can't really get in that tree. That tree's huge, man. I can't get my I can't get my sticks around that tree. You know, I can't. You know, now you got this. Now you just throw ball over a limb. Sometimes these big giant oaks you need to get into, maples, whatever. You know, you don't even need a throw ball. You just take the end of this rope, throw it up 15, 20 feet over the limb, clip in, up you go to the next limb. You know, and you're in. You're hunting, and at the end of your hunt, especially in very cold weather, coming down at the end at the end of the hunt and at night, it's like it just doesn't get any easier. You know? You just descend down out of the tree. That's it. You're done. Nothing else is up there. Okay. You know, all your stuff that you did have out. You know, your gear hangers, this, that, bow, whatever you have. Put it in your pack, and you know, take on your knot and down you come. You know, whether you're DRT or SRT. That's it. You're not coming down, you know, at the end of the day, at night, you're freezing. You got to undo your sticks, get them down and out and everything. And listen, we don't, you know, I don't knock the stick guys. It's not my cup of soup, but, you know, I see a lot of guys go out there running and gunning, man, with a stick set up, and they love it. And then, you know, that's a tool that works for you. That's awesome, man. It's not my thing. You know, I did try it, and but you know, I'm a rope guy.
Yeah. You know, I've been doing DRT, SRT, and single stick, but I found even this season, I think I only single stick climbed twice, because I do try to, you know, wherever I can. For me, the single stick has become like a plan B. You know, if I'm doing a run and gun setup and I don't have a limb in the tree, it's something like a telephone pole, or I don't have a limb till 50 feet up, and I don't have a way to get up in it. It's like, okay, I can single stick.
Yeah, no, it definitely checks a box. There's no doubt about it.
The only thing with it is that for me, I find it's more work to single stick climb than to if I had a preset or whatever. If I have a preset, that's always, you know, I'm either going to DRT or SRT climb.
Absolutely.
And it just makes
I mean, a lot of the areas we hunt, it's just, you know, they're not those straight telephone pole trees where, you know, that's the only thing around you, and, you know, there's no limb for 40, 50 feet or more, you know.
Yeah, and you think about it, like if you're a DRT climber, and especially if you just have a preset, that's it. This is it.
Right.
That's all you need.
That's how you're getting in and out of the tree.
Just a rope.
No sticks, no stands, no steps, no ladders.
You know,
just that, and you're wearing your saddle going in.
Yep. One of the things too is like, it seems like the nature of a lot of saddle hunters that we're always looking for a better way, and you know, and that's cool. It's a lot of fun I'm a tinkerer, and there's so many guys that are tinkerers. But one of the things that I guess you and I have talked about a lot, it's like when it comes to hunting, I want to just keep it simple.
Yes.
Less is more.
Always.
And, you know, like I get a lot of people that ask me, I DRT and SRT climb. I do both. But what I find I'm doing is SRT climbing. I'm able to set my line in a tree easier with SRT because it's more forgiving. I don't have to be as picky with limb selection. All I got to do is, you know, canopy hitch around that main trunk. By just getting my line high enough, I can get into that tree. I have a couple different ways to do it. So SRT is great for that. But when I want to come back and hunt, what I'll usually do, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to use my SRT setup to do and set up my presets and scout climb. But when I come back to hunt, I'm going to come back just with my predator rope and keep it real simple. And it's just got a friction hitch and a rope. I'm not going to. It's just simple.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. You know, it's like what you know.
Yeah. I mean, with Joe and I, we go into a new area, and you know, we find something that's like dynamite, man. We may set 4 or 5 presets. We may set 10, 12 presets. You know. And this way we have all the wind directions covered. So yeah, you know, to do SRT, now you're talking leg power. You're talking mechanical hitches, and you're talking leg power. So if you got to go up and down that tree 4, 5, 6, 10 times a day, you know, definitely that's the easier way to go, without a doubt. And like you said, as far as limb selection, you don't have to get as picky as you do in a DRT setup. You know, you can just throw a ball over a number of different limbs, come down the other side, and then just canopy hitch your rope with an alpine butterfly, and up you go.
Yep.
You know, it's simple. But yeah, they both have their place.
They both have their place. I'm really happy that I can do both. You know, I really like having both setups. If somebody were to ask me, I think you get more bang for your buck if you were to buy an SRT setup, it costs more, but when you buy an SRT setup, you've got what you need to single stick climb because you got your belay device.
Yeah.
And then with this rope, if I wanted, all I got to do is add a split tail. I can DRT climb with it as well. But now I've got all three.
Yeah.
I can do all three with just this
Right,
one rope.
all three applications. Absolutely.
But if you're somebody that wants to get, you don't have, you don't want to spend that kind of money and make that big of an investment, you can rope climb,
And you can also add, like you say, if you just can't get that DRT thing down, because if that's all it really is, everybody's like, I found that this is just a little bit hard. And is SRT easier? Yes, absolutely. Because like I said, you're using more leg power when you SRT. But all this isn't a muscle thing. It isn't, I'm not strong enough, I'm not athletic enough.
It's a technique.
It's a technique. That's all it is.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. And once you master it, and I've seen guys where, I've been at some of the, the seminars we go to, and, guys are like, I just can't get this shit down, man, and then, all right, let's see what you're doing wrong. We'll go over it with them, man, and say, nope, do this, go into the tree on you're too steep of an angle, go on more of an angle, almost like you were, like how Batman would walk up, walk up his rope, walking up the walls, get in more of that kind of a position, and then use your hips more. And the same thing, as you're throwing your hips forward, you're pulling down with the rope. So you're not pulling your weight. Well, it's a transfer. As you throw your hips up, you pull down. So it's almost at that one point, you're almost weightless right there. And then just advance the knot. And then you can also do it where you can have the tail end tied off so it self advances. So then you don't even have to take that hand off to advance. It's just doing it for you.
Yeah.
But once you got that mastered, and then like I said, for the people who just can't get that down, all right, then you can always add a foot loop to it. Yep. And then you got leg power to help you get up the tree.
But that's the beauty of it. There's a lot of different ways to do this to make it easier. But if you're, in the purest sense, just the traditional hip thrusting DRT, all you're using, it doesn't get any simpler. If you can master that, it's just a rope. That's it. That's all you need to climb with.
And that's what I climb with. I mean, I'm a DRT guy, and my camera gear weighs more than my methods to get up the tree.
Yeah, that's
really, like when I go in the woods and I'm like, oh my God, this pack is so heavy, because the camera arm, the camera, that's the stuff that weighs me down. But it's like I said, like Joe said, keep it simple, stupid. That's really what it comes down to. Yep. All these other ways, there's plenty of other ways to do it, but I like a simple method.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing you'll find is I noticed that among saddle hunters, a lot of guys out there, they really like to tinker.
And that's cool, man.
Explore it,
And like we always said too on our channel, share it, man. Share it with us.
Yep.
You may open our eyes up to something new that we haven't done.
Yeah, we had. In fact, speaking of that, I'm gonna work on a video shortly. This one viewer of ours, Jim. He's an older guy. He's in his 70s, and he just climbed I think he did a 300-foot.
Yeah.
He didn't make it.
No, 150 foot. It was a 150-foot Sitka spruce.
Oh, okay.
And 70 years old, man. And actually, somebody took a picture of him. He was 100 feet up.
Yeah.
And he has a saddle that he uses, and he's been doing this for a little while. And but the saddle that he had to use that day because this guy
insurance.
Yeah, the guy was an outfitter. He had an outfitting business. He outfitted climbers and stuff like that. Take him out for the day. So you got to use his gear because it's insurance purposes, of course, and everything. He doesn't want people coming in using stuff that he doesn't know about, and God forbid you take a fall on his watch. So for insurance purposes, you have to use his gear. So he really had a problem with the saddle.
He said he wished he could have used his
saddle. He said he wished he could have used his saddle. It would have been much more comfortable. But still, he 70 years old, man, 100 feet, up this Sitka spruce, man. And, that's an accomplishment. I hope I can do that when I'm 70 years old.
Yeah, but what I was going to say, I'm going to be making a video on it pretty soon just to kind of share it. But, he was showing me his setup where he's using some mechanical advantage, and it's kind of weird. It's almost like a hybrid of DRT, SRT, and mechanical advantage using some pulleys. Makes it real easy to pull himself up into the tree.
Yeah.
And I always say, climbing tree. When it comes to climbing trees, the only thing that limits us
is your imagination.
Is the tree and your imagination.
That's it.
And
that's the thing, man. If you if you got a wild imagination, man, and and once you get doing this too, that's where it really gets the wheels spinning. I've seen guys, like I said, going back to like some of the saddle seminars we go to, man. First timers coming in, man, and just guy never sat in a saddle before. Watch me do it and everything. Watch a couple guys, and he comes up, flips in, and everything. And I mean, he went up that tree like he went up it 100 times. And now I started explaining something as he was up there, and
we saw it. We saw the light bulbs go off.
Yeah, he grasped the concept right away, man. And he goes, "Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about." And he was just like, that was it, man.
Yep.
He was hooked for life.
The beauty of it is, if you're somebody that's been deer hunting for a long time, you've been using tree stands, climbers, you've been humping them way back and everything, and then you realize, like, hey, I can do all this stuff. I can basically wear my tree stand in, no weight at all, and stick this in my pack, and that's all I need to climb 35 feet.
Right. Safely,
and it's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, boom, that light bulb goes off. You say, man, I wish I knew this 20 years ago.
Like our buddy Joe Paisy, same thing.
Yeah.
We met Joe 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Right. And holy crap, man! Went over to his house and just showed him, and he stepped into the saddle, hooked in, and up the tree he went, and he was hip thrusting like a pro. First time ever. Going up. And he was just like, oh my God. He's like, are you friggin' kidding me?
The funny thing is, a lot of guys, it was the same thing with Joe. Like, went up, came back down, went up, came back down, and they just have that same look on their face. They come down and they look at you
amazement.
It's just like,
yeah, why have I not been doing this for the last 30 years?
Everything has just changed.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a run and gun stick dude,
Yep.
And he still uses his
Yep.
sticks. He used them a couple times this past season.
Yep.
But when he gets on a DRT rope, and he's just like, man.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. It really is.
Yeah, and like I say, we've always been advocate of, don't sell your tree stands.
No.
Don't sell your climber.
No.
Keep all the stuff. It's like a mechanic.
I didn't sell any of my tree stands, because I got some private spots that I hunt still, to this day.
It might be times where it's just
I put my
the right thing
sets
to
in
do.
there, and listen, there is nothing easier. Waking up in the morning, driving to your spot,
and it's already
walking
there.
in 100 yards, 200 yards, sticks are in the tree or steps are on the tree, walk up in there. Now, I wear my saddle in every tree stand I go into. I just do that for the versatility, because it just gives me, it gives me another 180 degrees to work with,
Right.
But no, there's nothing easier than that, Now, this would be my second, I feel like this is easy, walk into the woods, hit a preset, tie on, and I'm up in that tree, and I'm set up within 5 minutes. I'm ready to go.
Yep.
5 minutes. I have my bow set up, everything set up. I'm waiting for light.
Yeah. So hopefully we answered the questions that you guys had. If you have any more, please put them in the comments section. This stuff gives us ideas for things to make content about, and things always come up, and we're just going to try and share them. We haven't been making much content like throughout this season. We had a really difficult season this year, 2 years in a row. So we had an EHD outbreak out here.
We're shifting gears this year.
We have to travel.
We're looking at other states. We're looking even in our state of New York, just 4 or 5 hours away. We got to definitely shift our whole. Our whole hunts, man. It's just, it really took the wind out of our sails, man. It just,
we've got no deer to
2 years ago, it was a hit. We're finding dead deer all over the place. Streams and creeks were loaded with them. And, if that couldn't get any worse, this past year, I lost 5 or 6 hit lister bucks, man, just gone, so it really took the wind out of our sails. And I said, you know what, that's it. Out of convenience, like anybody else, when you can walk out your door and go hunt, or drive 5 miles down the road and go hunt, that's awesome, and still get into some solid bucks, but that's done, you know.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's not in the cards for us right
So
now.
now we got to travel. So,
Yeah.
but not bad. You know, it's exciting. Listen, it's new ground ventured in. You know, we're
still
looking
having
forward
fun.
to it.
We're
Yep,
still
we're
having
having a lot of fun. We recently just bought some e-bikes. We purchased the kayaks last year, and so you know we're going to venture out a little bit this year. You know, we're going to be bringing hopefully a lot more content. We think these bikes are really going to come in handy, especially in some of these real big public land parks. Get us way back in. So you know that's going to open up a whole lot more content for us.
Yeah. We're old guys, so we're trying to find ways to make it easier to carry us back
instead of
there.
humping in 10 miles, if I can be there in 10 minutes on a bike, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. We know we went a little bit long with this video, but hopefully we answered some of these questions that you guys had. If you have any others, again, put them in the comments section. Really appreciate it if you hit like. Subscribe if you haven't already, and send us a friend request on New York Saddle Hunter Forum on Facebook, and that's always an easy way for us to converse with guys if they got questions.
Yep.
You can share information back and forth, and we really appreciate you watching. All right,
Thanks, guys.
So climb safe and best